A guy walks into a small town in Washington state, coming home after 8 years in the Army Special Forces. His name is Chris Vaughn. The town is Kitsap County, the kind of place where everybody knew everybody when he left, and the first place he stops by is the old lumber mill. The place is locked up. The mill has been shut down for 3 years. While the vet is standing there looking at the closed-down gates, a sheriff's cruiser pulls up behind him. Out steps Stan Watkins, the new sheriff in town, with one of his deputies. Watkins takes one look and recognizes him on the spot. Vaughn is a local hero around here, the hometown boy who came back a decorated soldier. The sheriff tells him to hop in. Chris tries to pass. The lawman doesn't really give him a choice, so our guy climbs into the cruiser. On the drive over, the vet asks about the old sheriff, the one he remembers from before. Watkins says the guy was killed in a crash. Something about the way he delivers that line, too casual, too quick. And it's obvious. The new lawman isn't real, torn up about it. Pull into Chris's family driveway and his sister Michelle comes flying out to meet him. Right behind her are his mom Connie and his dad, Chris Sr. The whole family piles on. Nobody's seen this guy in years. At dinner, Chris picks up on how tight money's been around here ever since the mill went dark. His folks are just getting by. He also meets his nephew Pete, who was a little kid last time he saw him and is now a teenager with attitude. Pete's salty that his uncle is taking over his bedroom, so the kid grabs a sleeping bag and says he's crashing out in the yard instead. Chris warns him it's going to rain tonight. Pete doesn't buy it. A few hours later, the sky opens up and the kid drags himself inside, dripping wet, but he still won't sleep in the house. Before heading back out, the kid wants to know if his uncle ever took a life over there. Chris lets the question sit and doesn't give him an answer. The next morning, our guy is out on the porch, patching up the rotted steps, when an old face pulls into the driveway. It's Ray Templeton, his best friend from high school. The two haven't seen each other since Chris shipped out. Chris pops open a couple of beers, but Ray waves his off. Turns out he's been clean for 18 months. After Chris left town back in the day, Ray tried to make it as a musician, got hooked on the hard stuff along the way, and eventually did time for a house burglary. He's pulled his life back together now, and he's proud of it. Chris gives him a pat on the back and tells him to keep it up. Ray invites him down to the field that afternoon. A bunch of the old crew is meeting up for a pickup football game. When the two buddies show up, Chris reunites with a handful of faces from the old days. Then Jay Hamilton rolls in with his own crew. Jay is a piece of the old gang too, but he's also the richest kid in the county now. His dad owned the mill, and when the old man died, Jay inherited the whole operation. First thing he did was lock the doors, kill the jobs, and open a casino on the other side of town instead, a place called the Wild Cherry. Half of Jay's players are his casino bouncers. Leading the pack is the guy running the security detail, a big mean dude named Booth. The game kicks off. It's clear right away that Hamilton's squad isn't playing for fun. They come in hard, throw elbows, run their mouths. During a break in the action, Chris clocks his nephew off to the side, hanging around with a bunch of older kids who are passing a joint back and forth. One of them tries to hand it to Pete. The kid waves it off. Back on the field, it keeps getting uglier. On the last play, Booth goes straight for Chris's knee. The vet has an old injury there, and the enforcer knows right where to put his shoulder. Chris goes down in a pile. Ray takes a bad tackle too. After the game, the rich kid acts like nothing weird just happened and invites our guy to come by the casino that night. Chris accepts. On the way home, he pulls Pete aside and calls him out for smoking. The kid just smirks at his uncle and walks off. That evening, Chris, Ray, and a couple of the guys roll up on the Wild Cherry. The place is packed, neon lights, loud music. Cocktail girls in tiny outfits working the floor. Jay spots them and personally walks them upstairs into the VIP lounge. Anything they want. On the house, drinks, girls. A line of credit that never runs dry. The old crew wants to show their soldier buddy a proper welcome, so they stick him in one of the private viewing booths for a show. The curtain rises on the other side of the glass and a dancer starts her routine. Chris is into it for about 10 seconds. Then he gets a better look at her face. That's Denny right there, his old high school girlfriend, the one he never quite got over. He calls her name through the glass. The second she hears his voice and sees who she's dancing for, she freezes, kills the lights, and bolts. Chris sits in the dark for a moment. Any good mood he had about being back in town completely gone. He heads out through the main floor looking for his friends. On the way, he spots Ray at one of the games and finds an older buddy, Smitty, getting cleaned out over at the craps table. The vet watches the dealer for one round and catches it. The guy is swapping in loaded dice. He calls him on it. Dealer plays dumb, so Chris just reaches across the felt, snatches the dice, tells everybody at the table to put their chips on 7, then throws down his own cash. The dealer goes to grab them back. Chris rolls anyway, 7, exactly like he called it. Only now the pit boss refuses to pay out and a pack of bouncers moves in. One takes a swing. Big mistake. The former Green Beret puts him on the carpet, drops another one with an elbow, then a third. But the numbers keep stacking up. They hit him with a taser. Somebody cracks him across the back of the head with a pistol butt. And everything cuts to black. Chris wakes up in a back room of the casino with half a dozen of Jay's guys standing over him. Booth is running the show. The enforcer rips a Special Forces medallion off of Chris's neck, the one piece of army he brought home with him, and pockets it. Then he slaps him around a few times. A couple of the other goons tell him to knock it off. Bad enough is enough. Booth pulls a box cutter out of his pocket and starts cutting into the vet's chest. When they're finally done, they haul him out to the edge of the highway and dump him in the road like garbage, half dead and bleeding all over. Chris manages to drag himself onto the center of the road and wave down a semi-truck just before it runs him over. Next thing we see, our guy is in the ICU. Tubes, wires, the whole deal. The doctor tells the family it's a miracle. A weaker man would be dead. Sheriff Watkins shows up at the hospital and starts pushing for a statement and a toxicology report. It's pretty obvious who he's planning to put on the hook here, and it's not the casino. Michelle gets right in his face and tells him to do his actual job and go after the people who did this. The sheriff says he's just following the facts, then he leaves. Ray swings by to see his friend, and since he doesn't have any cash on him, he swipes a bouquet out of the room next door and brings it in. Looking around the hospital room, Chris realizes the hometown he came back to isn't really his hometown anymore. A couple of days after all this, he's out of the hospital, walking with a cane, his ribs wrapped up. He takes it slow for a while. Ray is always around. Pete pitches in too, helping his uncle stretch out his bad leg, bringing him plates of food. Little by little, the big man gets his mobility back. Before long, he's up on the porch again, finishing the job on the steps. That's when Jay Hamilton's car rolls into the driveway. The casino owner steps out all friendly, apologizes for what happened, says his guys got a little carried away, that things got out of hand. Then he slides into the pitch. He wants Chris to come work for him as the new head of security. Even hands over a thick envelope of cash as a goodwill gesture. Chris doesn't take the job, doesn't take the envelope either. The rich kid leaves empty-handed. Right after that, our guy drives into town to see Sheriff Watkins and press charges against the casino. Watkins isn't interested. He tells him the Wild Cherry already did their own internal review, and as far as this office is concerned, the case is closed. The casino is off limits. Ever since the mill went under, that place has been the biggest source of jobs and revenue in the whole county, and the sheriff isn't about to touch it. Chris tells him this isn't going to slide. The lawman makes it clear who runs things around here and points at the door. Later that day, Denny swings by the house. She brought back his old Letterman jacket, the one she borrowed off him back in school and never gave back. The two of them take a stroll down the road together. She's heard about what he's been up to, and half-jokingly, she floats the idea of him running for sheriff, since the election is coming up in a few weeks. Chris asks her about the casino. She admits she's been dancing there for about a year. He doesn't hide how much that bothers him. She tells him the rent doesn't pay itself. Chris pulls up in the driveway and finds the place crawling with paramedics. Pete is on a stretcher, blue in the face, overdose. He almost didn't come back. Chris tracks down the kid's friends and pins one of them against a wall until he gives up a name. It came straight out of the casino. Hamilton's security guys are moving it around the whole town. Connie is crying, begging Chris to go to the police. Our guy already knows that's a dead end. He walks out to the shed and pulls his old shotgun off the wall. His dad tries to talk him down. Not happening. Chris is halfway across town toward the Wild Cherry before he changes his mind about the shotgun. He pulls over, tosses the gun in the back, and grabs a big solid slab of cedar out of the truck bed instead. He isn't going there to kill anyone. He's going there to send a message. He walks straight through the front doors of the casino and starts laying waste to the place. Slot machines come apart under the plank, tables go flying, a handful of guards going running and the benches go split. Ribs cracked, arms snapped, bodies hitting the carpet one after another. The cedar handles just fine. Booth comes out swinging a shotgun. Chris rips it out of his hands and beats him down in about 10 seconds. Before he walks off, he reaches into the thug's pocket and takes his medallion back. Then he steps back, winds up, and chucks the plank up at the mirrored window on the balcony. The glass shatters, and up in the office, Jay Hamilton is staring right down at him, watching the whole thing. Our guy gets in his truck and starts heading home, but two sheriff's cruisers are already on him before he clears the parking lot. Watkins pulls him out and books him. A court-appointed attorney sits down with him at the jail and lays out the deal. If they go to trial, he's looking at up to 18 years. If he pleads guilty, they'll knock it down to 3 months under house arrest and call it done. Chris won't do it. He's not owning up to something Hamilton's guys started. The trial gets underway. One by one, the bouncers from the Wild Cherry take the stand, and every single one of them tells the same story. Chris is a trained killing machine, a man with military weapons training, a guy who turned a normal night at the casino into a full-blown assault. The prosecutor hits the jury with a line about how in Chris's hands a plain piece of wood became a weapon. Through all of it, our guy's own lawyer doesn't say a word. No objections, no pushback, nothing. The vet catches his attorney throwing little looks over at Jay in the gallery, and that's when he figures out his own guy is on Hamilton's payroll. Chris stands up in open court, fires him right then and there, and tells the judge he'll handle it himself. Instead of arguing the incident, he turns to the jury, regular people, folks he knew growing up, kids he went to school with, and he tells them straight up what's going on in their town. The casino is cheating its customers. The casino is dealing drugs. Their own sheriff's department is in on it. Then he tells them that if he walks out of this courtroom a free man today, he's putting his name on the ballot for sheriff and he'll clean this whole place up. The judge keeps threatening to hit him with contempt. Chris keeps talking. He pulls open his shirt and shows the jury the scars Booth's box cutter left across his chest. The whole room goes quiet. A couple of minutes later, the jury comes back. Not guilty. The gallery erupts. Couple weeks after the verdict, our guy wins the election. He shows up to his first day on the job carrying that same slab of cedar, only now it's been sanded down into a proper club. His first move as sheriff is to fire every single deputy in the building. First thing the next morning, he pulls Jay Hamilton over in his Porsche. While the casino owner's got his girlfriend in the passenger seat, asks for license and registration. Jay starts laughing, figures this is a bill. Chris tells him the problem isn't the Porsche, it's the dope Hamilton is pushing out of the Wild Cherry. The rich kid denies the whole thing and goes straight into the insults. According to him, Chris washed out of college football, washed out of special forces, and he'll wash out as sheriff too. Then he slides in a quiet threat. Keep pressing this and the new sheriff might not see his next birthday. Our guy doesn't react. He just tells the air his taillight is broken. Jay says there's nothing wrong with the taillight. Chris pulls out the Cedar Club and makes his point for him. After that, he drives over to Ray's place and tells him he wants him on the force as his deputy. Ray points out he's got a felony record and can't legally carry a badge. Chris tells him he doesn't care. He needs somebody who actually knows the drug scene around here, and his best friend is the only guy he can fully trust. Ray agrees. On one condition, he wants the uniform. The two of them start working their way up the ladder, rolling through every trap house and street corner in the county, squeezing dealers for names. Eventually, they catch up to Booth. Ray pats him down and finds a little packet of crystal tucked inside his sock. Booth figures he's headed to lockup. That's not the plan. Instead, the sheriff and his deputies start pulling his custom pickup truck apart piece by piece in broad daylight, saying out loud the whole time that they're searching for more product. By the time they're done, the truck is a pile of scrap. Booth still won't roll. He tells them they're going after the wrong folks. Later that evening, Chris sits his father down and tries to hand him a pistol. He can tell trouble's heading their way, and he wants the old man ready. Chris Sr. put his guns down years ago and doesn't want to pick one up again, but the sheriff leaves the weapon on the table just in case. Then he heads back to the station and finds Ray outside Booth's holding cell, screwing with the prisoner through a bullhorn. Chris tells his deputy to head over to the family house and keep watch. He'll stay here with Booth. Later in the evening, Denny shows up at the station carrying a bag of food. She quit the Wild Cherry. She wanted to make some kind of fresh start, same as he's doing. One thing leads to another, and the two of them end up on the floor of the station house. Morning comes. At first, it looks like nothing happened. Then Jay Hamilton picks up a phone and makes one call. A minute afterward, the truck sitting in the station parking lot turns into a fireball. Chris grabs his shotgun and moves toward the front door. That's when the dirty sheriff rolls up with his entire fired squad of deputies, and they open up on the station with machine guns, absolutely wrecking the place. They don't even care about their own guy Booth, still locked up in the back. At the same moment across town, a crew of masked men kick in the doors of the family home. Ray hears hears them coming and moves fast. One of the intruders gets him in the leg with a round, but the deputy keeps going. He stabs the first guy, knocks him out, and drops down low. Two other gunmen have Michelle, Connie, the old man, and Pete at gunpoint upstairs. One of them heads down to check on his buddy and walks right into Ray's shotgun. The deputy blasts it through the chest. Michelle takes her shot and kicks the third guy down the staircase. He and Ray end up in a wild shootout across the living room, punching holes through every wall and hitting basically nothing. Back inside the wrecked station house, the sheriff blows a hole through the floorboards with his shotgun and drops into the crawl space underneath. Denny goes with him. He hands her a pistol and tells her to hold her fire until he says, Booth is in the back cell screaming for somebody to get him out of there. Chris yells back across the room that if the thug gives up the location of the lab, he'll come unlock the cell. Booth breaks right away. Hamilton runs the whole meth setup out of the old mill. That's why he shut the place down in the first place. 2 seconds after he spits it out, a burst of machine gun fire cuts through the cell and takes him out for good. Outside, one of Watkins' guys tries to pitch an explosive through the window.